Well, I can't wait to learn. I'm with the lead strategist, Chris from VaynerNFT. And there's so many things, Chris, that you have access to, right? You're working with all these amazing brands that lean on Vayner for what it is that you provide, strategy, implementation, all the different suite of services and development. And you have a big strategy team that leans on you to kind of guide things, put out fires. And of course, VaynerNFT has exploded in growth and impact. So it must be quite a fun role that you have. For folks that don't know who you are, please share a bit about yourself. I'd love to maybe hear a bit about your background in music, as I was looking in and I see the guitar and the music, things there. So maybe you could share a bit about yourself and then what you do at Vayner. We can enjoy a conversation together.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Ian. Where to begin? I joined Vayner last November as lead strategist. I'm coming over from KPMG. So my background's in consulting, working with these types of major brands, thinking about corporate strategy, thinking about how to grow into new markets, thinking about how to cut costs in certain times. And when I joined Vayner, we focused a lot on crypto strategy, focused on tokenomics, how to think about scarcity, how to think about the culture in Web3 and what the NFT market sentiment was like. And what I brought to the table and continued to build has been kind of that balance between crypto and corporate. I've been studying the crypto space since about 2017 and kept an ear to the ground. But I have to say, I've been thrilled to, now be in the front row seat, flying down the Web3 mountain alongside our clients and kind of finding that balance, communicating all the deep crypto knowledge to our clients who are often marketing, digital, IT operational executives at Fortune 500 brands. So it's been, a fun ride. And we've had a great time bringing a lot of different, major institutions into the NFT space in an authentic way that's kind of sincere to their brand heritage, their brand values, but also authentic and feels natural for their entrance into this new and emerging, Web3 world where everyone's sort of figuring out as we go along.
So maybe we could talk a bit about the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 with the acknowledgement that, we're likely going to land on Web 2.5 first. And so not only what's your perspective of where we're at, where we're going, and what's a reasonable bridge, but how do you explain that both to your clients and prospects as well as your team so that the expectations can be met and exceeded?
Yeah, there is no shortage of buzzwords, jargon, exciting things that you're seeing in press headlines, in tweets, in talks. And one of the things we try and help our clients do is kind of decipher the signal from the noise. And I think we're seeing what we're starting to call the tale of two metaverses, right? We think about Web3, we think about NFTs, we think about this metaverse buzzword that doesn't really exist yet. And I think we're seeing this tale of two. And on one side, we have the Web2 tech giants, the Facebooks, the Metas, the Robloxes, the Fortnites, who have built incredibly immersive platforms, incredibly immersive experiences, and huge user bases. And what started to happen and what started to actually accelerate is these organizations are starting to experiment with blockchain. And we've seen announcements from most recently Spotify, Instagram, others, Twitter, of course, that are integrating some sort of NFT verification or allowing certain members of the platform to start testing their, NFT galleries in the in these Web2 platforms. That's, tale number one, and really interesting and really compelling. The other side of the tale is, of course, these new upstarts that are usually funded very heavily by VCs. I'm thinking OpenSea, I'm thinking MetaMask, I'm thinking Decentraland and Sandbox, and they've been built with the blockchain and the principles of decentralization and self-sovereignty, composability, all the things we think of as Web3. They've been built on top of that from the get-go. And I think they have all the tenets of Web3, but they don't have the user bases that we've seen in Web2. And they're building out these token incentive models, and hopefully that'll help them grow really quickly. We've seen exponential growth with companies like OpenSea and MetaMask already. So I think we see this tale of two metaverse, these things playing out in parallel. And I don't think it's a matter of like who's going to win, but we're going to see them converge slowly over the course of the next 3, 5, 10 years. And so, I think we'll get to this fully decentralized Web3 eventually, but I do think we're going to see this sort of Web 2.5 in the near term and in the medium term. And I think our message to brands is, don't sleep on either side of this. Don't ignore the Web 2 giants and rush straight to Web 3, but don't, sleep on Web 3 and say, it's not ready for me yet. We're seeing a lot of brands, plant their flag in Web 3, either by activations in Sandbox or Decentraland, or by NFT programs of their own, or by partnerships, not even dropping NFTs, but partnering with prominent NFT collections. So there's a lot of ways to kind of participate in both sides as the technology matures and as consumers adopt these new technologies.
So I wonder how the culture of demonizing and glorifying plays out in strategy with your clients. So let me frame it this way.
Sure.
Obviously it's easy to understand, the Democrats and Republicans, they're all demonizing and glorifying their own camp and fighting the other. In the Web 2, Web 3 approach, if you put Meta's Horizon and NVIDIA's Omniverse over on one side, and you put Sandbox and Decentraland on the other, it'd be easy for them to feel at odds, and certainly their communities to, that's the evil empire, that's the rebel scum. So I think that is a natural thing that can happen. So how do you, if somebody, when your client says, hey, we want to be dominant everywhere, we want to build out in all the spaces. And so how do you bring peace to what could be maybe a bit tense in terms of the approach, and serve your clients best and their communities best, in that giving them the opportunity to play well in all these different environments?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question, because it's a perfect plug for what I say like 10 times a day, which is your strategy needs to come first. Your strategic ambition needs to be so clear. You need to know what your North Star is as a brand, as an organization, as a new participant, before then making decisions about where do I prioritize, what venues do I want to host my virtual spaces in, do I want to build, do I want to buy, do I want to partner? And so one of the first things we ask brands is, why do you want to play in the metaverse in the first place? Is it just because you're seeing all the PR headlines and you want to just make sure that you're not missing the moment? Or is it because you're excited about the long-term technology? Is it because you want to align your brand with new cultural moments that we're seeing in art, in fashion, in sports? So I think the only way to make sure that we're, measured and balanced across, these two worlds is asking first, like, what their goals are. And if the goals are, we want to reach a lot of customers and find, mainstream Gen Z where they're at today, I think we might say, okay, Fortnite is a really realistic place to have an activation. And, our organization might not focus as much on those Web 2 activations, but it might be right for certain clients. If they say, hey, we want to build relevance in culture, we want to plant our flag really early as an early innovator into what we know is going to be this incredible growth in Web 3, then we'll start talking about, NFT programs or collabs with different NFT, projects, as I mentioned. So I think it's understanding upfront why a brand wants to participate in these new trends in the future of the internet, and then kind of helping them craft their strategy, and then a series of long-term minded executions along the way. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. So let's talk about strategy in terms of timing. One of the things that Gary really did well early on, and I feel like he and the team, VFriends and everything regarding that, has done well in terms of the action, was building long-term value, right? Multi-decade impact. How does this play out over a century? So if you're talking with one of the clients or prospects, you're working on strategy and you're saying, hey, short term, what is short term in your mindset? Is that this season and this year? And what is long term in your mind? Is that a few years out, or is that a century out? Like, how do you as a lead strategist, how does your team frame what is a short term project and what is a long term vision when it comes to laying these things out, so that people's timelines are aligned with the end result that you want them to achieve?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best things about working with large organizations is they do have a much different clock speed than, let's say the Doodles or the Bored Apes, right? They're, many of our clients, I'm thinking, AB InBev, PepsiCo, Ford, they've been around. They're not Web 2 companies. They're like Web 0 companies. They've been around for 50 years, 100 years. And so the way they think about this new technology is, they know it's a decade long shift that they want to make their first steps in today. So I think the long-term thinking is one thing that we certainly emphasize, but I think brands tend to understand that. But of course, as we know, playing in the crypto space, like every day is like 6 years in the crypto world. We're seeing constant innovation. We're seeing the chessboard completely flipped over day after day as new innovation is coming to the table. So as we think about what are real ways for brands to dip their toe in the water and play, I think we think a short-term moment is fine. I think about what Doodles and Bear did at South by Southwest. It was a one-time activation, and it was richly engaging, super interesting, and got Bear's first taste of the NFT space. I think about many of the activations that happened at VCon this past weekend, where it was I'm thinking about Johnny Walker sponsoring a happy hour and having a POAP and doing a collaboration with VFriends and the Gift Goat owners. It was a one-time thing, but it's the first of many. And I think as we're working with clients, we're saying short-term moments are really important, but they need to be pulse points on that longer-term journey, and they need to kind of ladder up into this testing and learning and growth, in the strategy. And so I think if you see, those short-term activations for many of our clients, there's a lot more to come as they sort of dip their toes in and then, continue wading out into the Web3 ocean.
How about like breaking up budget? So if you have a prospect come, they say, hey, we're serious. Like we have an 8-figure budget. We want to go all in over the course of the big retainer and you're our agency of choice. And they just ask you, but we don't understand how much weight goes on strategy, how much goes on development, and how much goes over to promotion. And so do you have a standard by which you do strategy and that, hey, X amount of time, money goes here, it goes into development, goes into promotion. Of course, it's a cycle because you're always going back to strategy, redeveloping, re-promoting. But what's your thought in terms of how large scale budgets are broken down to do things well?
Yeah, I think for me, it's less about the dollars and cents of what gets allocated where, but making sure that each leg of the stool, and in this case, strategy, tech implementation, execution, and promotion, if those are the three, making sure that they get the attention in equal weight. You can't have one without the other. You have to do them in the right sequence. One thing that I'd add as maybe a part of strategy or like a fourth leg of the stool is upskilling and education. I think, if we're thinking about a big budget and a brand new client, one of our earliest priorities is certainly setting the strategy, like I mentioned, this strategic ambition, but also making sure that the right stakeholders are getting familiar with the technology and are understanding it from a fundamental level. So, in social media and Web2, when that, took off, that was, largely marketing driven, right? It was mostly a marketing tool, and there wasn't, really intense IT or tax or legal implementations. In Web3, there's definitely IT, financial, tax, legal considerations. And so, as we allocate our time, not necessarily our budget, as we allocate our time, we're making sure that we're really bringing in all the stakeholders that we'll need to engage with from the get-go so that they're read in, they're along for the journey, and they're coming up with their legal, tax, financial, technology, security positions based on a real understanding of the technology, not based on what they read in a random article or what they're worried about because of the ambiguity in the space.
So do you find that educating the stakeholders is more custom and one-off, and educating their end consumers is more standard? Is there more of a standard practice by which here's how we're going to educate your current constituents, the people that are already passionate about you? But hey, every stakeholder, every board, every executive team is different. So it's a completely different approach. That'd be my assumption, but I'd love your insight on that.
I think each time we educate a new client, we're refining our story as well. And like I mentioned, the space is changing so fast that what I educated someone on 6 months ago, a lot of it's changed in the last 6 months as we've seen new things happen. Obviously, the market is in a different place than it was last, 6 months ago. So I think we're constantly evolving our educational materials, our playbook for educating. And I think to your point, it does differ. Certain clients of ours are light years ahead of others in terms of their understanding of Web3. And so educational needs can be different. As far as customers go, I agree. There's a lot of awesome educational material out there, and so for us, it's how can we lean on a lot of the existing consumer education material that exists and meet consumers where they're at, whether it's awesome YouTube channels, whether it's awesome blogs, whether it's podcasts that we suggest, whether it's specific people on Twitter we think you should follow. I think there's starting to become a recipe for how to get up to speed in Web3 as a consumer.
So how about the model of you do it for them compared to the hybrid model where you're working with an in-house team and kind of training a in-house staff for these large scale projects? Is there a way that you lean toward as a team? Do you desire that it's hybrid and that you're collaboratively working and they are really taking authority and responsibility for the end result? Or are you kind of leans, hey, this is brand new, we're figuring out ourselves, like just let us handle this for you? Is there a preferred approach to doing projects with your clients?
Yeah, we're definitely a hybrid sort of agency consultancy. I think we're definitely strategic advisors and consultants in that we help brands really understand the space, and we help facilitate a lot of partnerships with them. We don't have an in-house dev team. We don't have a ton of technical resources. So often we're linking our clients directly to smart contract developers, NFT marketplaces, right? And we're helping them sort of build those connections and helping those developer shops work directly with the IT teams at our clients. So I'd say it's a hybrid, but we also don't think of our clients as clients in many cases. We think of them as partners. Their success is our success, and so I think we work extremely collaboratively with our client partners, and play a role of both the agency where we're ideating and coming up with cool new ideas, but we want those ideas to be our clients' ideas as well, and really co-created and then co-executed.
So why don't we get toward wrapping the conversation on the cool idea topic? Sure. Our focus for NFT.NYC this year is diversity, specifically diversity of projects and approaches. And so that ties into cool ideas and innovation, right? This is a new diverse thing. Is there a lot of pressure to always come to the table with diverse, new, cool approaches nobody's ever done before? Or is there actually an equal or even greater emphasis toward, hey, it's already hard enough to do this well. We know these things work. Let's not draw outside the boundaries too much. Let's try to stay within the lane that we know we can execute on. Yeah,
it's a really good question. And the space moves so fast. So I can't say the playbook's still being written, but what I will say is many of our clients, our portfolio companies have portfolios of brands. So let's say using PepsiCo as an example, they have, Pepsi, they have Gatorade, they have Mountain Dew, they have Doritos, right? They have a really diverse portfolio with really diverse customer bases, folks that care about different passion points, different verticals. Some lean more heavily towards sports, while others lean more heavily towards art or music or fashion. So we definitely advise our clients to approach the space from multiple angles, run multiple tests so they can test and learn and experiment in new ways. But I think one thing that we definitely believe works and makes a lot of sense is that authentic entrance. And so you don't want to come immediately into the space as an elephant in the room without an understanding of the culture and drop a branded NFT. That we know that recipe does not work, and we've seen over the last 18 months brands try and just kind of jump in without really understanding or committing or collecting in the space. And so our advice to brands is always find authentic ways to give back to the community as your first step, to use your brand to elevate emerging artists, to use your brand to highlight different types of art or the diversity of NFT use cases. Use your brand to even signal using like an ENS domain or something, right? Like just really participate and show that you're not just trying to come in and do a branded cash grab or make new money or find new products to sell or new consumers to sell to, but really appreciate some of those tenets of Web3, like community building and bringing community value as these large institutions who have awesome IP, really cool experiences, and great partners and ambassadors that they can offer to their consumer bases through this new medium of NFTs.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll wrap the conversation. Maybe it's watching our conversation. Thank you for your attention. We hope you join us in Times Square, June 20th through the 23rd. Chris will be speaking about the tale of two metaverses. I think that'll be really engaging for people to come and participate and learn from. Chris, thank you for all that you and your team do. I feel like your team is creating a lot of stability for the rest of the industry, especially as there's big peaks and big valleys. And it's nice to see what you've already done for your clients. And I can only imagine what we can see coming ahead. So thanks for jumping on here with me. I look forward to seeing you.